Why is it easier to love a stray cat at 2 a.m. than to say something honest to the person sitting across the dinner table? That sounds like a poetic question. It is a neurochemical one, and the answer involves a mechanism that is more specific and more revealing than most people expect. Because the person who walks an extra block to put food out for an animal that will never thank them, never text them back, never tell them they're enough, that person is not performing kindness. Their brain is solving a problem. The question is, what problem? This month started in a quiet apartment on a Friday evening, someone choosing home over the world. It moved through rewatching, social media, exhaustion, isolation, sensitivity, calm, self-talk, spectacle, disconnection and survival. 12 videos, one thread, a brain managing the distance between itself and the world. Today is the last stop in the cycle. And it is warmer than the rest, but the mechanism underneath is just as precise. In 2015, Nagasawa and colleagues at Azabu University in Japan published a study that caught the attention of neuroscience far beyond the animal behavior field. They found that when dogs and their owners gazed into each other's eyes, both showed elevated oxytocin levels, not just the humans, the dogs as well. The loop was mutual. This was the first rigorous demonstration that the oxytocin bonding system, the same neurochemical loop that drives parent-infant attachment, can activate across species. The brain does not require genetic relatedness to trigger its bonding circuit. It requires specific cues, eye contact proximity, rhythmic interaction, perceived vulnerability, and the absence of threat. A stray animal sitting in the cold looking up, that combination of vulnerability and non-threat hits the oxytocin system with almost no resistance. The brain registers, something small needs care and it cannot hurt me. The circuit fires. That last part, it cannot hurt me, is where the mechanism stops being about animals and starts being about humans. Because humans can hurt. Humans judge, disappoint, withdraw, betray, misunderstand. Every act of emotional connection with another person carries a risk assessment that runs automatically below consciousness, in the amygdala. Will this person reject me? Will they use what I show them against me? Will they leave? The assessment is fast, constant, and energetically expensive. With animals, the circuit is almost entirely absent. A stray cat does not evaluate social status. A dog at a shelter does not form opinions about performance. The social threat pathway, the one that makes vulnerability with humans feel like exposure, goes quiet in the presence of an animal. The bonding system gets a clear channel. No interference, no risk calculation, just the oxytocin loop running clean. This is where the concept of displaced care becomes important. The term comes from ethology, the study of animal behavior, but it maps directly onto human attachment psychology. When the primary target for care is blocked by fear, by history, by a nervous system that learned early that people are unpredictable, the care impulse does not disappear. It does not atrophy. It reroutes. It finds the next available target that meets enough criteria to activate the bonding system without tripping the threat alarm. Animals meet those criteria almost perfectly. They are present without being evaluative. They are vulnerable without being manipulative. They respond to care with visible, unambiguous signals, purring, nuzzling, approaching, leaning in. And crucially, they do not require reciprocal emotional labor. There is no conversation to navigate, no subtext to decode, no performance to sustain. The care flows in one direction, and the bonding system is satisfied. For someone whose relational history taught them that loving a person means eventually getting hurt. Loving an animal is not a lesser form of connection. It is the form of connection the nervous system has identified as survivable, not because the person is incapable of loving humans, because the pathway to humans carries a toll that the pathway to animals does not. Zilchermano and colleagues, studying the intersection of attachment theory and human-animal relationships in 2011, found a pattern that was not subtle. People with insecure attachment styles, particularly avoidant attachment, reported significantly stronger bonds with pets than with human partners. Not because they lacked the capacity for connection, because the connection pathway that runs toward humans was partially blocked by a learned expectation of pain. The animal bond provided what the human bond could not at that moment: closeness without the risk of rupture. The attachment system was not broken. It was operating with the data it had. and the data said animals are safe. People are not. This is not a character flaw. It is a routing decision made by the limbic system based on accumulated experience. Pelagi and colleagues added another layer in 2014 with research on interspecies empathy and mirror neuron activation. They found that humans showed measurable empathic responses, facial mimicry, autonomic resonance when observing animal distress, and that these responses were stronger in individuals who scored high on emotional empathy scales. The brain does not reserve its empathy circuits for members of its own species. It extends them based on perceived vulnerability and perceived innocence. A stray animal registers as both, maximally vulnerable, maximally innocent, and the empathic system responds at full capacity. For people who feel deeply, the same people who show up throughout this entire video cycle, the signal from a stray animal is not small, is overwhelming, and it asks for something simple in return. Presence without performance. This is where the month closes, not with a verdict, not with a diagnosis, with a question that is meant to sit quietly rather than be answered immediately. If caring for a stray animal feels easier than caring for the people in your life, what does that say about the animal? Nothing. It says something about the route the care is taking. It says the bonding system is intact, the capacity to love, to nurture, to show up consistently for something that depends on you. All of that works. The question is whether the route to the human version of that care is blocked, or just unfamiliar. Because there is a difference between a system that cannot connect and a system that found a safer path while the harder one heals. One is a limitation, the other is a bridge, temporary, functional, and pointing somewhere. 12 videos, 1 month. The thread that ran through all of them was never really about introversion or sensitivity or trauma, or isolation as separate categories. It was about one brain, each viewer's specific brain, navigating the central question of human experience, how close to let the world get. And the answer was never one size. It was always, it depends on the wiring, on the history, on the specific mechanism running underneath the behaviour that the world sees. One couch, one silence, one closed door, 12 different circuits. The next cycle starts Monday. New topics, new mechanisms, and the first one involves something many of you have been asking about. What happens when an entire generation gets rewired by a world that changed faster than anyone could explain the rules? That one goes wide.